What's up? Welcome to Tales Tomorrow. I'm Morrow, your storyteller for today, and with me we have some more RPG horror stories. My apologies for not releasing videos as of late. Unfortunately, some things came up in my personal life, and just after I got over a cold, then I found out at the hospital over on Monday of this week, Morrow is a little bit too sweet, I suppose, because I got diagnosed with onset type 2 diabetes. Considering that my mother and even my grandmother have diabetes, it only makes sense that it would be hereditary. There is a good news to this. It's not so severe to the point where I need to be on insulin or anything, just some medication, basically changing some things in my life, being a little bit more physically active, even though I'm pretty physically active being on here and everything. But now that I've taken time for myself to adjust to it, I should be able to get back to making proper videos again. So let's get to the first RPG horror story for today. GM forced us to take a mission that made no damn sense. Back in the 90s, we were playing Battletech, and we were enjoying it immensely. We had managed over time to upgrade our mechs to 90 and 100 ton assault mechs. Clan ones at that. I was rocking a Stone Rhino, and the only other I can remember is the Kraken 4L variant, where they were running 8 LRM 15s and a crap ton of ammo. Everything was fine for a while using a Solaris 7. You know, there are actually some mech-specific TTRPGs, like I think Lancer is one of them, that I really want to try. Does anybody have any recommendations for that? Asking for a friend or anything? Let's get back to the story. Everything was fine for a while using the Solaris 7 rules and a nice decoded die roller that our friend cobbled together. We were able to track things like the individual missile hits and potential for critical hits per missile. That Kraken had a lot of nuclear mushroom clouds painted on it as victory marks. When things got less fine was then when GM wanted us to take on a mission that made no damn sense. We were supposed to head to a military facility and steal the battle plans for the attack that was happening in a week. In our mechs. In our 5 mechs. In our 5 90-ton mechs. You know, you implying the big things can be stealthy, but I have a bit of an anecdotal thing. My buddy Micah, the guys that you met, the ASMR, he plays a old character, a Loxodon Rogue. That's right, a Loxodon Rogue in our campaign. Just, you know, on the side, just for funsies. And he's literally the stealthiest character ever. Like, yeah, I get he get expertise in stealth and everything, but we have like a party full of dexterity-based characters, and he's literally the stealthiest character ever. Never fails a stealth, never fails in acrobatics, the most agile and stealthiest thing, even though it's like 8 feet tall and huge. It is insane. I guess what I'm trying to say is never say never, but let's continue. Yes, we were told by our GM that we had to sneak into the facility with our 40-foot tall battle mechs, leave said mechs to go into the building, and to shoot our way through the defenses, grab the plans, shoot our way out, re-enter the mechs, and sneak away. We argued that this made no sense. We had the mech warrior rules as well, so we could play outside of the mechs, kind of how we got to use these toys in the first place really, so we could do an actual infiltration mission, make a copy of the plans, and exfiltrate. You know, like how it should go. DM didn't like that and wanted his big mech fight. We even pointed out that the whole point of stealing the plan is to do it in such a way that they don't know that the plans were stolen in the first place, since if they know the plans are compromised, that would change the plans, and again, we don't know what's going to happen. I don't know why UGM is specifically focusing on having you guys like arrive in the mechs and do stuff with the mechs and have the mechs that I'm assuming what they have in their head maybe is like the cinematic mech chase, right? You infiltrate into the thing, something goes wrong, and there's a shootout, you steal the plans, run back to your mechs, get in your mechs, start running away, you get chased, and there's this epic chase or something going on. I'm not fully sure. Maybe they're setting up for failure. That could be it. That could be a gotcha maybe going on. Or maybe they're setting up for a real cool moment. I'm not fully sure. But they're failing to communicate why they're so hell-bent on you guys taking the mechs there, even though, like you suggested, just doing an infiltration mission just by regularly, you know, by yourselves, by your own pilots and stuff will probably make sense. I don't know. Let's see what happens. Nope, we were to physically take the plans. GM even said, well, at least the generals will know what they won't be doing. I admit, this is where I got a bit sarcastic. I can tell you what they won't be doing without stealing the plans. They're not going to be doing a daylight charge across the minefield. They're not going to be tiptoeing through the tulips. They're not going to be dancing the Watusi. I hope I pronounced it right. Can tell the general a billion things they're not going to be doing, but it's what they are going to be doing that we freaking need to know. GM refused to listen to reason. One of the other players said, you know, I have that jump ship that we took a while ago. fancy just living off the profits. Our characters can live like fat cats transporting military forces. They don't have to risk getting a mech shot out from under their asses. GM just said, fine, session over. Someone else can pick up GMing something for a while. That was the last time I played Battletech. Not a huge horror story, there was no dramatic breakup with a friend group, and we kept playing other games as friends until life happened, and 3 of us had to scatter to different states as our jobs required. Pretty mild to start off, but I mean, I guess it's a pretty good lesson in general. Like, sometimes you're not gonna see eye to eye with player and GM and vice versa and such. So, I mean, at the end of the day, you just gotta ask the group, what do you guys want to do? And willing to compromise, because at the end of the day, it's a collaborative effort. But if you're not willing to budge on something, unless it's important in some sort of great narrative scheme, then you want to try to explain to your players exactly what's important. With the GM just not willing to budge for whatever reason, and not willing to give like a reasonable explanation on why they're not willing to budge, I feel like that is itself is pretty unreasonable. Players and GMs just want to be able to play the games they want to play with their friends or people they like to play with, but you also need to make sure to remember that this is a collaborative experience. This isn't like, it's not one of those things where if the DM says everything, then players just have to accept it without questioning it, or like vice versa, of the players are there because the DM is the entertainment dispenser. It's a collaborative effort. You got to be able to talk things out and stuff like that. Maybe there was just burnout, I don't know, I'm not fully sure why there was a lot of friction to it, but in regards to the situation, it does feel a little bit weird, the fact that DM is just not willing, GM, not willing to budge whatsoever on this specific matter. It's just weird. Or like not even explain to the players, this is why I want to have this moment, because, you know, something else is going to be setting up. Maybe, I don't know, teasing some sort of another BBG being revealed, or another faction, rival faction being revealed, and that's what the one people in Mechs and stuff. I don't know. Either way, pretty mild story, but at least something we can learn from there. Communication about this sort of thing is pretty important in my opinion, and this is just a lesson in communicating the intention from DM and player both. I mean, players make sense, yeah, they probably don't want to just have their mechs in there and just be spotted immediately, because nothing gives you away your position like a 40-foot tall mech, especially a heavy mech as well, you know, the kind of things that go I'm not sure if you ever played any like Battletech games and stuff, but I played a little bit here and there, and the tonnage, the weight for the mech and the class of the mech kind of matters. The tiny mechs that can easily get away with stuff, you know, be pretty stealthy. The big ones, they're about as big as like a full-size, well, not skyscraper, but like a full-size office building, you know? It's kind of hard to hide them. But either way, let's get to the next story for today. New player and fellow DM insulted my setup. Okay, this is a long one, so buckle up. I started playing D&D as a Dungeons Master 2 years ago with a couple of friends. They really liked my style of DMing, so I started doing it with a larger group, and more often after they encouraged me to. I try to keep my campaigns open to pretty much anyone who wants to join, beginner or not. So when a friend of mine asked if their friend of a friend could join my latest one, of course I said yes. For context, I don't own a lot of nice D&D equipment per se. I have digital copies of the rulebooks and guide on my iPad that I keep nearby when I'm playing. My DM screen is homemade, my notes and designs are all handwritten, I use homemade figurines or ones I have from childhood, I hand design my maps, etc. I've never thought about it much before, and I don't think my usual players have either. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter how much you invest into the hobby as long as you find a way to keep playing it. Like, the best part about D&D or really any TTRPGs is the limited amount you need to invest in order just to play it. Because like all the base rules for your favorite TTRPG out there are typically available for free, or at least it's easy to find free rules out there. So it's not that difficult to get your start, and having a setup that just kind of works for you without investing too much into it, I think it's completely fine. Just because you get into a new TTRPG or start one TTM and stuff doesn't mean you need to invest and dump a lot of money on something nice. I've seen a lot of projects where people basically make their own DIY like DM screens and other stuff and figurines, so invest as much as you want to. Don't feel pressure to invest like a ton of money into nice figurines or maps or whatever. The most amount of investment I really do when it comes to like my own games is just paying Forge to run this server, and that's basically it. That's like the majority of it. If I have like a book I want to introduce into our game, like a third-party book, I don't know, like Humble Folk and stuff, if I have it, yeah, I got it. And if I want to get it, I can get it, but like it's on my own volition. I don't have to like, I don't feel pressure to get anything specific. But otherwise, like when it comes to making maps or anything, I'll either find some online, or maybe, I don't know, use Incarnate or something, or just Photoshop them myself. Because at the end of the day, it's not about the money invested, it's about the time spent with really good people. Anyway, I'm getting way too mushy. Let's get back to the story. This new person was a few minutes late to the first meeting, not a big deal. When he showed up, he raised his eyebrows at my setup, which I didn't think much of it at the time. It kinda gave me a weird look. Fine, whatever. Later on in the game, a new person had a question about a rule, and I opened my iPad and scrolled through my digital player guide to find the answer. Once again, he raised his eyebrows and scoffed. This continued for a whole game. When an NPC became a bigger part of the story than I anticipated, I took my bracelet and placed it on the map to represent them. He wrinkled his nose. When I pulled out my childhood ogre figurine as an enemy, he scoffed, etc, etc. It was starting to make me feel insecure, but I was having a good time with the other players, so I ignored him. He subtly continued like this for the rest of this session. You know who we call that in the business? A snob. I mean, actually I could use a lot of better words. A jerk, an asshole, a dickbag, a judgmental prick. You know, I can continue going on and on, but I can find all kinds of words for a person like that, but for layman's terms and for the basicness, let's just call him a snob. For whatever reason, the game is up to their standards. For whatever reason, it is a problem that you want to use like a bracelet to represent a character token just right there. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. You know how many people just use Lego figurines or just whatever they have at the house, like maybe chess pieces or checker pieces or anything at all. Some people straight up even use dice sometimes just to indicate something. At the end of the day, the whole point is you're placing a bracelet to represent a token for an NPC at the table or at the map so that everybody knows where they're at. Because otherwise you could just be going with theater of mind, but you choose to go that extra step and put up a map and have a physical representation. Doesn't matter what it is. It could literally be a teacup for anybody cares. There's some players don't care as long as they know exactly what the character is and go with that. I don't understand what this guy's problem is. The only thing I can say is maybe they're snobbish or maybe this game is not up to their standards, the high standards. If they have such high standards, they could bring their own figurines next time. Also scoffing at you for having rules on an iPad, a convenient object so you can pull it up at any time and search through it digitally. Imagine if this book was suddenly a virtual book, so instead of flipping pages, I just had to swipe up and down in order to see things. How much more convenient that would be. I understand some people like the physical nature of the book and stuff, it just feels good to hold and stuff, but at the same time, there's nothing wrong with having a PDF be downloaded onto your iPad so you can just scroll through for double checking the rules. There's nothing wrong with that. Convenience is key. Finally, I was scribbling some notes down on a sticky note when he snapped-ish. He said something along the lines of, "I can't believe this." I asked what the problem was, and he gestured to my stuff, calling me disrespectful for not bothering to make my setup nicer for my players. He said I was childish and ruined the fun for everybody. I'm betting it doesn't ruin the fun for anybody at all except this snob who apparently has to like enforce their own stupid standards onto you. Who is this guy? Why are they enforcing their stupid standards onto you? Nobody else is complaining. He is the only person that's complaining. When nobody was siding with him, he texted his usual DM who responded by saying that I wasn't a good dungeon master if my setup was handmade or not professional. So apparently you're not a good dungeon master if your stuff is handmade or not professional. Do you realize what you're saying? Do you think a lot of these nice like TTRPG-D&D tables and all the accessories that people make aren't handmade? Everything is made by hands. If somebody has a really nice table set up with like a digital screen on it, it was probably made by hand by somebody. Everything in the world is handmade. Whether it looks professional or something made from readily available stuff or just DIY'd for really cheap, that doesn't matter. At the end of the day, the experience of playing the game is playing the game. Everything else is literally a side thing. There are literally people out there that play the game with theater of mind without any visual representation, and they're playing just fine. So all this other stuff that this DM is specifically putting through, making their own handmade DM screen and notes and everything, that actually shows that they do care, that they have a lot of work put in. For this guy to claim that suddenly because the setup is not as nice, as not respecting to the players, fuck you, buddy. Fuck you for having these stupid standards being enforced on somebody. The fact that you can see how much work the DM put into this in order to accommodate the players and have the notes and rules available on an iPad and everything, how much they've done in order to set up their own DM screen. They could have had no DM screen. They could have had no notes. They could have had nothing set up and prepared for anything, but instead they do have it prepared. They're just doing it at their own comfortable pace that works for them without needing to invest thousands of dollars into a setup. I dislike snobs to my core. That was kind of my breaking point, so I yelled at him and told him to go. Afterwards, a few more players said that I was being unfair to him and defending him by saying that he might be used to fancy setups, which I understand and can sympathize with. Yesterday, he messaged me asking about when the next session was, and I don't know what to say. I get the other players are vouching for them, but you have to just explain to the other players that you just don't want somebody that's gonna be just unnecessarily rude at your place because of your setup. God forbid you don't want to invest thousands of dollars into a D&D setup or TTRPG setup. There's nothing wrong with that, by the way. Invest as much as you want to, as little as you want to. But ultimately, it's up to you, DM. If you think the player's gonna be fine here without being like unnecessarily rude, then go ahead. It's completely up to you. If you don't like their disrespect that they're doing, or they think they're gonna become a problem player later down the line, that's kind of a best judgment on you. You played games with them, so you would know kind of what they're like, or maybe your buddy knows what they're like. Maybe you can have your friend talk to the friend of friend and see if they can maybe explain, hey, don't be a jerk about the DM setup. You're here to play as a guest, so be a polite guest and not be a jerk. At the end of the day, they are just literally a guest. They're a friend of a friend. They don't have any ties to anything. Let me know what you think in the comments below about this. I'm gonna move on to the next story for today. Fellow player once tried to pressure my character into sex, and I repressed it since my character was male. So this happened a while back, but I saw this up and decided, why not? The year is 2020, and I'm part of a friend group consisting of me, my sister, and 3 other people. Note that this friend group would later basically implode a few years later. We decided to try D&D since one of the group members recently got into Critical Role and wanted to try her hand at DMing. We all agreed it sounded fun and started creating our characters. It's going to be a regular D&D 5e campaign with all of us coming together to create our own fantasy world for the setting. We had extensive world building, lore, backstories, and even a damn shared Pinterest board. It was going to be awesome, and since everyone in the group was female or non-binary, I assumed that none of that type of frickery was going to occur. I'll tell you a secret, I'm not sure if that's considered sexist or not. I don't think it's sexist, but I gotta let you know, a lot of my female friends are extremely perverted. Like, very perverted. Like, more perverted than me, and I'm literally a horny devil, because horns and I like sexy stuff. Anyway, let's continue. My character was a 21-year-old male human rogue. Sister played a female tiefling fighter. Friend number 1 played a female half-elf bard, and friend number 2 played a halfling monk. Friend 3 was the DM. For some reason, friend 1 and 2 found my character ridiculously attractive. I don't know if it was his looks or personality or what, and I was okay with a bit of flirting and a few jokes. It was all good fun. First 2 sessions went off without a hitch. We were howling with laughter at every session, developing our characters, and would stay out way too late on a person's house playing. Life was good. Then as we were cleaning up at the end of the session, it happened. I don't know how the topic even came up, but friend 2 have joked that they wanted their character to have a child with my character, because my character was apparently very good looking. I think we're skipping a few steps here. Like first you probably want to, I don't know, hold hands and stuff, Pepe Shy. I can't even do like the Pepe Shy because I have the freaking book in the way. Pepe Shy. I don't know. I think we're skipping a few steps because we're getting into like, we're skipping the romance and the lust part, just going, I want to have a child at the same time with some friends that I know from VR chat. Actually, maybe, maybe this is more normal than usual. I don't know. I want to say it's normal in my circles, but I wouldn't be shocked or surprised if somebody was like, I want to have kids with them. A lot of horny friends. And they're not tieflings, mind you. Anyway, let's continue. It's here that I'm going to mention that I'm adamantly child-free and very uncomfortable with pregnancy happening to me, not in general, and really didn't want any sort of pregnancy storyline happening to my character. Hence, one of the reasons I made a male character for the first one. I wasn't even going to leave it in the realm of possibility. All of my friends knew this. When these jokes were made, I nervously giggled and said that my character wouldn't agree to that. They rebutted with, character wouldn't make him raise it or anything. Still couldn't tell they were curious. I still couldn't tell they were serious. I reiterate my point again, to which friend 2 responded with something along the lines of, I'll just have character cast a seduction spell, and then he'll have to have sex with her, then roll for pregnancy. And if the roll says she's pregnant, she's pregnant. All said with a half-joking tone. I think this is one of those situations where it's like, ha ha ha, right guys, yeah, all jokes, right? But it's really not jokes. It's just people masquerading their perversion, or horny, basically. And they're tiefling horny. under the pretense this is light-hearted jokes. They know you're uncomfortable with that sort of thing, and yet they keep prodding for it and even saying, what if I were to use seduction spell to essay your character, make your character forced to have sex with my character just so they can become pregnant? THXD. It's just weird. It's weird. There's jokes, and then there's this. And this is not really jokes. I mean, I don't know in which realm possibility this could be considered a joke. I mean, maybe like terrible humor, dirty humor. It's not even humor at this point. It's just like, ha ha ha, wouldn't it be funny if I seduced your character with a magic spell and force your character to basically essay your character so that my character could get pregnant? Just kidding. Ah, ha ha ha. I don't think these people, the friend 1 or friend 2, I don't think they're really good people. Well, at least friend 2. We don't know much about friend 1. Maybe they're on the same board with it or something. I don't know. But friend 2 is clearly letting the thirst get the better of them in the worst way possible. Dumbfounded, I said that wouldn't be consensual at all, and frantically looked over to friend 3, the DM. DM did put her foot down and said that nothing of that sort will happen. Thankfully. Oh, thank you, DM. Then everyone sort of immediately forgot about it, and we carried on as usual. I guess everyone brushed it off as a joke or unserious. Hell, I did too at the time. The campaign went well and continued until we all moved apart from each other, and the friend group kind of fell apart and now only talked to sister and friend number 3/DM. However, that little interaction kept bugging me. For literal years, I wondered if this nonchalantly dropped comment counted as an RPG horror story. Then I realized that if I had been playing a female character and some playing a male character half-jokingly threatened to forcibly impregnate her, no one would think twice about posting it here. Essay is essay, regardless of the character's gender. So yeah, here we are. I've since talked about it with sister and DM. Both agreed it was wrong in retrospect, and DM apologized for me for not taking it more seriously in the moment. If the other members of the old group ever stumble across this, yes, I am still thinking about it. And yeah, that was pretty screwed up. Essay is essay regardless of who it happens to. I think that's actually very important. Jokes are jokes, but there's also a limit with the jokes, right? It's fine to joke around and kid around, especially if you have a good sense of humor, if you're surrounded by good people, right? But it kind of getting to the point where someone's horny. I'm using the word horny so much. This video is going to be 100% demonetized. But someone's attraction, extreme attraction to someone's character got the better of them, and they started making jokes that feel very not safe for work and non-consensual and just very creepy. It didn't really turn into much of jokes. I think you're right to address it with the DM and sister and to try to put a stop to it by calling out as what it is, non-consensual and SA. It's good also that DM also stopped it when it started getting way too non-jokey at this point, because it is weird. If it's weird, call it out. If it makes you uncomfortable, just say, yo, this is making me feel uncomfortable. Can we move on from this topic? But at the end of the day, I'm glad you talked to your sister and DM about it, and thanks so much for sharing your story. And at the end of the day, I guess lesson we can all learn is essay is essay, and sometimes jokes can be taken too far. It's fine to joke, there's nothing wrong with jokes, but as long as you don't take it too far to the creepy territory. And with that, that's gonna be all our stories for today. I want to thank you very much for watching, and thanks so much for being here. If you like what I do, consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like. Also, if the RPG Horror Stories ever goes down, or if you want to submit your own personalized horror story, email is down in the description below. I'll see you again in more Tales Tomorrow. Bye-bye.